What if I told you that one of the Bible's so-called contradictions actually proves how carefully the Bible distinguishes justice, responsibility, and human choice? Critics say the Bible contradicts itself. One passage says God visits the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation. But another says the son shall not bear the guilt of the father. So which is true? Does God punish children for what their parents did? Or does every individual stand accountable only for himself? And here's the bigger question. If the Bible really contradicted itself on something this important, could you trust any of it? Stay with me, because the answer lies in one critical distinction most people completely miss. The Bible draws a sharp line between inheriting consequences and inheriting guilt. That distinction changes everything. Exodus 25 is talking about consequences. When God says he visits the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, he is describing the ripple effect of sin across generations. Think about it. A father addicted to drugs may destroy the stability of his home. A violent parent may create trauma in children that last decades. A godless generation may pass moral chaos into the next generation. Children often suffer because of the sins around them. That's reality. That's history. That's human experience. But here's the loop critics rarely resolve. Does suffering consequences mean God declares the child morally guilty? No. And Ezekiel 18 blows apart that misunderstanding. Ezekiel 18:20 says, the son shall not bear the guilt of the father, nor the father bear the guilt of the son. That is individual accountability. God never condemns an innocent child for the moral crimes of his parents. Every soul stands before God on the basis of its own choices. And Ezekiel 18:4 reinforces it even further. The soul who sins shall die. Notice what the verse does not say. It does not say, the soul whose father sinned shall die. It says the soul who sins. That destroys the idea that a person is spiritually condemned merely because of ancestry. But wait, if individual accountability is true, then why does Exodus still speak of judgment reaching multiple generations? The answer is hidden in a phrase critics often leave out. Exodus 25 does not stop after mentioning generations. It says, of those who hate me. That changes the meaning completely. The judgment continues only if the next generation repeats the rebellion of the previous one. In other words, the curse continues only when the sin continues. But if the son sees his father's wickedness and refuses to imitate it, the cycle stops. And that is exactly what Ezekiel 18 teaches. The chapter describes a righteous son born to a wicked father. The son observes the evil around him, rejects it, and chooses righteousness. And God says that son will live. Did you catch the power of that? The Bible is not teaching fatalism, it is teaching moral choice. You are not trapped by your bloodline. You are not spiritually doomed by your family history. You can break the cycle. But there's one final verse that brings the entire argument together. James 1:14 says, each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and enticed. Notice the language carefully. Your desires, your temptation, your choice. James agrees perfectly with Ezekiel. Sin is not transferred biologically like eye color or DNA. Sin emerges from individual desire and individual surrender. Yes, children may inherit environments shaped by sinful parents. Yes, families can pass down destructive patterns. Yes, consequences can echo across generations. But spiritual guilt belongs only to the individual who personally embraces sin. That is why the Bible simultaneously teaches two truths. Generational consequences are real, but personal accountability is also real. The Bible never says innocent children are eternally condemned for their parents' sins. What it does say is this: sin spreads consequences through families, cultures, and generations, but every individual still possesses the power of moral choice before God. And perhaps that is one of the Bible's greatest demonstrations of justice. You may inherit scars from someone else's rebellion, but you never inherit their guilt before God. And that leaves us with one final question. If every soul ultimately stands accountable for its own choices, what kind of legacy are you creating for the generations that will follow you?